All right, hello everybody. We've got a little project came in. I picked this up last weekend, and it's kind of condition unknown, but it was really clean machine. Probably one of the newest ones I've seen in person. I know there's one that has a little bit different symbol here that's a little bit newer, and we kind of went through and trying to just get a quick, I guess triage on what's going on with it. So pulled a spark plug out of it, and the flywheel here, the screen on the back, you can turn it by hand. You can see this, yet the piston does not go up and down. So kind of suspecting a broken rod. It has 462 hours on it, and one of the guys yesterday looked the tag up on the air cleaner, under the air cleaner rather, on the side here, and apparently with a 25 here, then it is a 95 model machine. So now we're going to do some more looking, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So we went ahead and washed it off, brought it on the end of the shop here, and this morning we're going to go ahead and take the engine out of it and kind of check it out. Rebuild kits aren't horribly expensive for it, so we're going to try to get that thing all torn apart and see what it's going to take. We have to tear it apart before we order it, so we know what size piston it's going to take. If it's ever been rebuilt, which I doubt that's the case, but it may need to be bored because the piston is stuck at top dead center. So we may have to bore the cylinder, and we'll need to know what size bearing it's going to take to clean up for the crankshaft. So that's kind of what we got going today, and we'll get this thing all apart, checked out, and I tell you, it's a pretty clean old machine. It has the real late model controls on it, and it's an 8-lead transmission, which means it's 4-speed versus a 6-lead being 2-speed. And from what I gather, that's this section right here, and you can combine low and high over here to come up with those 4 different speeds. So that's kind of what we're looking at. It did have some bad tires on it, so had these on another machine. We popped them off and mounted them up. Left the odd situation. This takes a tapered lug nut or stud, but or lug bolt even, but it didn't have any of that in it. It came with just grade 5 coarse thread bolts with nylock nuts. Let me see if I can get you around there. Right there, you can kind of see the nylock nuts on the back, which was kind of odd, but it is hub centered, and I guess it kind of forces the paint goofy, and it makes it stress that and makes it break. But anyway, not the end of the world there. But anyway, that's it. It has the sloped hood, and takes a real short little battery to fit in there. But it is a 8 horsepower machine, a Kohler Magnum 8. So we'll go ahead and get this thing coming apart. All right, so here's a shot under the hood. There's where a little battery goes. Thankfully, it had all the battery hold down straps and hooks all in there, so that's pretty good. The oil was super clean in it, but not very much of it. So here you can kind of see what the transmission fluid looks like. It looks very watery, so we'll be changing that too. And apparently this machine sat at a repair shop for a couple years after it had engine problems, and they didn't, for some reason that guy didn't like working on Gravely's or whatever. I don't know what the whole story was, but they ended up going back and picking it up, and then they ended up just not fixing it. So buddy of mine ended up with the machine, and I was picking up an oil filter there on Saturday, and it was sitting there, so it had to come home. So, but anyway, here it is. So we're going to try to get this thing apart and see what we can figure out with it. There she is. I'll just slide it straight off. Lift up a little higher on the bottom. Easy, slow. Okay. Stop right there. You have it. We have to take a wire off over there. All right, folks, so here we are. We've got our catastrophic failure inside this Kohler. And here is the connecting rod. We dug all the big pieces out. And it's typical of what happens when they get run low on oil. This little slinger gets down in the oil and it dips it, or a dipper, I guess, and it runs it up this hole and gets it in around this bearing area on the journal on the crankshaft. Problem is, when it runs low, there's not enough oil going up through there. Now, you also have to be sure you put it on in the right direction. If you put your connecting rod in backwards, the hole is not there, so it'll do this again. So you don't want to do that twice. So when this happens, we end up with a whole lot of little pieces of aluminum kind of welded on there to the crankshaft, and it's a bad deal. So what we're going to do is a trick that I heard about of using muriatic acid. Now this you can get at the home centers, whatever. I picked this up at Lowe's this morning, and use it for cleaning brick. My dad always had me clean brick jobs with it when we were building houses and stuff. You put it on a brush and scrub it up and down the brick, and it'll take kind of that rough mess off anything that drips on it mortar wise, and it'll make your bricks look real nice. So anyway, so we're going to take a minute and take a little bit of this stuff, if I'm smart enough to get the lid off of it, and we will try it out, see how it does. Now supposedly it will, I'm gonna take that out so it doesn't splash everywhere. Now I've got glasses on and gloves, just a little bit of safety stuff. And you want to do this where you don't breathe at all. We're kind of got the big door open. We're out here in the end of the shop. And it is strong. It will take your breath. So I'm using a brass brush because it is going to be softer than the aluminum, or sorry, softer than the steel, so it doesn't tear up the crankshaft. You can already see it bubbling there. Let me get you in here a little closer. Yeah, you can kind of see it bubbling right away there. It's turning it kind of black looking also. But anyway, this stuff's supposed to eat the aluminum off and not tear up our steel crankshaft. So we're going to give it a shot here. Got a couple different brushes. We're going to brush a little more of this on here. We got our handy dandy Chick-fil-A water jug can here, sweet tea jug. Kind of made a nice little support mechanism for this. We want to kind of be careful what we get all that on. Look at that, would you? Just bubbling right off of there. Again, you don't want to breathe this stuff. Don't get it in a confined area. And that brush won't hurt our crankshaft. Probably wouldn't want to use a steel or a stainless steel one. But here when we get done, I also picked up some 1500 grit sandpaper. We'll polish this thing real good. That way we should be in good shape. Called Randy up at Hardman's, and he's getting us some parts located. They're still a Kohler dealer, and try to put this thing back together with Kohler stuff. And yeah, it's looking real good. We cleaned that brush too, didn't it? I'm just gonna flip this over and just set it clean in there. Boy. All right, guys, very impressed with that. It turned out really nice. Again, use some muriatic acid on it. It looks really good. Now we're going to polish this thing a little bit and get it kind of slicked up. There was one little ding in it from where I guess it probably hit the bolt when it all came apart, coming back around and hit it. But I think it'll be okay. We're going to polish it and see how that turns out. And I don't know if you've ever tried to clean one of those without that, but that is a game changer. I've tried. I did a small Briggs one time. Man, it was a nightmare getting those little pieces off of there, and that really did good. Now I used my knife a little bit, kind of to knock some of them bigger pieces down smaller, but wow, it is really good. And then I just kind of rinse it all in water, got it all good, and then took it to the parts cleaning tank and just kind of went over it to make sure I didn't leave any water residue on it. And So now we're going to go ahead and put a little WD-40 on some 1500 grit and start polishing this thing. But again, very, very, very tickled with how it turned out. Here's that little dimpled spot. I'd say, like I say, if I'm coming around hitting that bolt. But we'll see how it polishes. I'm just wrapping that rag in there in the bicycle. Hold it there for us. All right, so we're going to take a little bit of WD-40 and lube this up, lube our paper up. I've got some mule tape. I've seen people use shoestring lace. My boot strings are round, so but this mule tape is nice and wide. I think it'll do a really good job, and I'll show you how that works. And so we'll trim a little piece of our, this is just a 1500 grit sandpaper, and we'll trim us enough to go onto that thing. Let me start on this end, that'll make more sense. Right, that's perfect. Oh yeah, pretty excited to see how this turns out. Just gonna run it all the way down there. We'll keep using it, flipping it over. See if we can get how many wraps we get. A little bit wide there at the end. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and wrap a little piece. That should do just fine. We can just keep going around it, and then we can adjust it as we go. You're not going to get it crazy tight. We'll wrap our string around it. There we go. By wrapping this all the way around it, it puts even pressure around it instead of trying to take your finger and putting uneven pressure on it. So. Take a quick look at it. Oh yeah, look at that. That is really looking good. One short. Here we go. The way it goes all the way around it. This mule tape is just like something you'd, same thing, bull line. They have lots of different things they call it, trademarks, but it's for pulling through conduits, like pulling electrical wires or informational lines through it, fiber optic cable, things like that. Has a really, really strong braking strength on it. Wow, that looks really good. I'm really pleased with that. There's that little spot right there. I was real tickled about where that thing got hit by the, I guess, bolt. But we're going to keep working on it a little bit more. Let me put a new piece of stuff there, sandpaper. really think that'll be okay. And it's really looking good. Hit this seal surface real quick. Off there. Oh yeah, that looks real good. And we'll do this side over here also. It had a little bit of rust on it there, but kind of behind the seal. It wasn't even on the seal, so I think it'll be all right. Oh, that looks really good.